everybody. My name is Ana Yogan. I am here presenting Reaprendência International, an institution that is dedicated to re-education. You can find our page, Reaprendência International, at YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Today we are going to explore loss and grief. But let's look beyond the pain. We all face losses, but if mourning wasn't a stop sign, but a launch pad. Let's challenge the conventional narrative of sorrow, transforming loss into an opportunity for evolutionary growth, deep self-understanding, and empathy. Instructor Ana Paula Lage invites us for a unique reflection on grief, loss, and the continuity of consciousness through the lens of conscientiology and diverse cultural wisdom. Are you ready to rewrite your relationship with separation and time? So please welcome our guest, Ana Paula Lage. Ana Paula has been a conscientiology volunteer since 1991, and she's been an instructor since 1993. Her extensive international experience includes living in 5 different countries, where she presented courses, lectures, and workshops. Ana holds a degree in psychology with specializations in psychogerontology and emotional intelligence in health humanization. Currently, she is volunteering at Biblio Africa, a global initiative dedicated to donating conscientiology literature to libraries across Africa. This project has donated over 1,400 books to 568 libraries in 34 countries, aiming to spread knowledge of conscientiology and its related fields. So please, Ana, welcome to our program. We love having you here.
Hello, Ana. It's a pleasure being here. I always like to have this opportunity to talk about this subject, and from the lenses of conscientiology. Thank you very much for the invitation. And so let's start with diving into this presentation. I did some slides. Before anything, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Let's understanding a little bit more about loss, which is the beyond the pain, an invitation to transform loss, a shift from a clinging to consciential growth. I actually work with this every single day because I work with transition, and my life as well has been a series of transitions, which means change, and for change, part of us need to go. And depend on how we see that loss, it defines how we are going to confront or live the new experience, okay? So I'm going to put some, the presentation, and at the end, we have a reference of books and movies, and then we're going to have a chat with Ana, present some of the points we're going to present here, talk more about. Feel free to send your questions, and let's start. So before we start, we'd like to talk about the principle of disbelief, which is very important. So it's do not believe anything you're informed here. Experiment, have your own experience. It's not my intention or the intention of everything we study in conscientiology to impose an idea or a way of thinking. Use your critical sense. See what this information makes sense for you. If it makes sense for you, excellent. Bring to your life and apply and see how it is under your own experience. If it does make sense for you, excellent as well. My opportunity that I have now is to inform. What we do with the information, it's up to you. So let's start here, and let's start first. We need to think about loss. And for us to start with, I would like to define what is loss, no? And if we think in terms of globally connection as a human being, we all have one thing in common. We all live loss. In some stage of our life, we are dealing with losses all the time. Okay, when we leave some place to move to another, we were talking about this before, change culture. When we lose a friend, either way for death or separation, natural separation, friend went overseas and you don't have contact with that person anymore. When we separate affections, physically break up, we leave jobs, we leave behind a reality. And so what is the loss? The loss, it's an absence of a person or something. It's the shattering expectations, the abrupt end of predictability, which means we have in our mind something is going to happen with this person, with this life. We have an expectation, and suddenly that's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And this loss is involuntarily. Sometimes we don't choose. Sometimes we choose, but we don't understand what's going to happen, you know? So we lose. And here, I'm not going to classify what is stronger or not. What I'm presenting is loss is in our day-to-day life. We lose pets, we lose jobs, youth, health, financial status, position. We need sometimes to change our values. We lose money. We lose a position of power. Everything is part of our life. I usually say that we have an opportunity in our life to learn how to deal with losses, micro losses, throughout all our life, which will define how we're going to deal with our final loss, which is our goodbye from this dimension, okay? So what is grieving? So here, grieving is the consciousness adaptive work to reintegrate reality. We see that loss is inevitable, but suffering is not. So grief, it is, I need to reintegrate myself. I need to accommodate my life to the new life without that expected situation, okay? Or the thing that I thought will be there forever. And the question here we're going to bring is, we all experience loss, but why does this, which is reaction, often becomes so debilitating suffering? It has to be suffering. That's the question that we're going to frame our work here. So let's dive in. When we study that aspect, I'm going to present here. Actually, it's not here first, but I would like to introduce the conscienciological lens. To study this, we're going to look from the conscienciological point of view, but I'm going to talk about a little bit of the psychology, which is my area, and neuroscience, which is my area, which I love to study and understand. We're going to understand the loss from a bigger picture with this conscienciology. Conscienciology, it is a set of evolutionary ideas, projectiology, conscienciology, that studies consciousness. It's the self, the Atma, the essence, which manifests in three different states, which is physical, us with our physical body, temporarily out of our body, projected when we go out from our body, and when we no longer have our body to manifest in this dimension, which is called extra-physical consciousness. Those set of ideas will help us to understand the process of evolution of consciousness, which is us. And so when we re-enter in this body, there is a reason for us to be here, which is our process of evolution. And so when we see here in conscienciology, what we see, our attachment to the form, to the body, to the role, to the specific time in our life, or the plane that we have, or attachment to the people, attachment to the object, attachment to an idea, it dictates the depth of our suffering. So when we fix our information, our view of who we are as being only a physical body, this will increase our process of suffering. And so that's what is important we understand. And based on that, we can think that our willingness to embrace the detachment from that form, from what we expect that's going to happen, something that has to be in this way, that's when we have an opportunity to grow, evolutionarily speaking. There is a reason why we enter into people's life or we go and separate ways. There is a reason that we have many experiences that we have to let it go in order to grow. Okay, there is a principle of physics where two objects or bodies doesn't occupy the same space, which means if you have a wardrobe and you need to put new clothes, you need to take out the old ones. If we need to develop recycling or change the way we live or the values we have, we need to let it go, the old values. If we need to incorporate the loss of someone, we need to incorporate the presence of that person, but we need to let go the state, the form we had that relation with that person. And we're going to see that. And to understand this, let's here look at the biological shock of a loss. And in neuroscience, what's happened when we have contact with someone we love, or an activity we love, or a job or place where we feel content in that. There is a biological response for that, what is called attachment reward system, which consists that the presence that person, or the person especially now in our life, it's actually trigger a brain response. This is neurochemical, guys. So it actually triggered that brain response, which is the dopamine that is for the reward, and oxytocin to increase that bond. And the stress is regulated and controlled by the cortisol levels, which means every time we are facing or we are with someone that we love or doing something that we love, we have this attachment reward system. When there is a loss, what's happened? This is cutted. We no longer have the presence of that person, and that attachment reward system, it's disturbed. And there are some the brain image that they do when people who are facing a very strong grieving, and they observe there is a part of our brain which is called, I'm going to read the name, it's nucleus accumbens, where it's extremely hyperactive. There is a strong hyperactivity in this area of the brain, which shows it's not for the pleasure, but it's the disturbance. It's like the brain, it's looking for that reward system, okay? It's looking for that, but it's not coming. And it's consistently, the brain, it's actually in alarm, bring that, I want that, I need that presence, I need that presence. It's kind of an addiction, which is I need the presence of whatever it is that with the person or that situation. And so this shows that the grieving, it's physical. There is a rewiring in our brain. Everything we do, neuroscience nowadays shows that everything we do, it's transformed our brain. Soon we're going to talk about the brain and the relation with consciousness. Okay?
I'd like to ask something, and so this period of the biological shock, can we say that the sympathetic system is going to be predominant because it's that period of shock and denial and disbelief, and the person loses the lucidity and becomes highly emotional, and at that period it's very difficult to understand everything that's happening. And despite of having the ideas of conscienciology, oftentimes we become really overwhelmed, and we cannot perceive that everything is multidimensional. How would you see this possibility?
Yeah, what's happened, it's there is a confusion, a emotion. The emotions actually, it shade all the discernment, the conscious. We could say that the part of limbic part of our brain, we are completely overwhelmed by the loss of that person. And biologically speaking, we are completely emotional and we can't use the discernment, because what is the mindset and the emotions can amplify our pain. And what we think actually trigger more and more the response in our brain. So the more we feel that pain, which is actually it's physical pain. The person is actually feeling the physical pain. And in this moment, yes, all the emotional, the brain or the discernment is not there, okay? And it's how we rescue that. It's when we understand loss, understand, and we give time for us to not keep thinking about the person. That was the best relationship I had in my life. I'm never going to see anybody again. I can't live without this person. And this kind of a romantic love brings that, no? When you are with somebody, you can't live. My life, it's only meaningful if you are in my life, you know? So those ideas nurture in us that sense of attachment, that I only can be happy with that person in my life, you know. And it's not only in relationship, affection relationship, but our parents, our siblings, our friends, and not only this, the things we have, which is related to how we actually see loss and the level of attachment we have in other things. So when you talk about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, the body, it's all craving for that person. You need to understand that biologically, they craving not for that person, but for this, for the dopamine, for the oxytocin, and the stress. I'm calming with that person. I have the presence of that person gives me pleasure. I calm in my life. I have bond, which is the oxytocin. I feel complete with that person, okay? And then when there is a loss, that's when happen. Even though the person might have the ideas, understand, we don't die, we're not going to lose the person. If a person does change and understand how they deal with loss, they will suffer regardless, you know. And understand that is the body. Nowadays we are
part of the process, right?
I mean, like the process.
Some cultures would say that oh, you have to control yourself, but you need to leave these emotions. Yes, it's part of the grieving process.
Yes,
is that correct?
Yes. It's actually grieving. It's part of this process. And sometimes people say, oh, you're going to be fine. It's going to take 1 year, or someone is 2-3 years in grieving. We call the pathological grieving. It's when the person can't go through that grieving and take the time to elaborate that. Because what's happened, that situation or the person they love, or all the expectations they had in relation to that relationship or their job or whatever it is that they are losing, creating in ourselves expectation that should be in a certain way, that should be another way. And so we have expectations how we would live that. And grieving, it's the time that we need to reframe our mind and they accept that that reality is no longer present anymore. And I need to restructure my life. I need to rewrite my life with the components that is no longer include that person, not physically, or no longer include that job, or no longer include that partner, or the culture where I was born, okay? So, and this is important because when we do that, we start to detach from that loss. And we start to see as an opportunity to, okay, I have a life to go and to follow, and I need to honor this person that's gone. And that's what we're going to be talking about here.
Good.
Okay. Any more consideration? It's good.
It's perfect. And I mean, like, Something that we can also look into is that the fact that we miss the way that we saw ourselves in that person.
Yeah.
And that can be a little bit egotistical, right?
Yeah, it's we all are egotistical to a certain level because we have our preferences. We want life to be the way we want. We have a relation or a job, and we want things to be, especially if the person need to control too much. The person has a script and has to be like this, and depend on the level of the script and the attachment a person has on a narrative or the presence of that person, that will define how much that person will suffer. And we attach it to affections, we attach ourselves to objects, we attach to an ideal being, even to ourselves, the idea that we have of ourselves, we attach it to those things. It's a natural process. We could say that, evolutionarily speaking, we need to develop our ability to let it go. I'm not the same me as I was a year ago. Things changed. Biologically, we are always, I don't have the data, but we are always changing ourselves. We are renovate ourselves. But for some reason, due to a lack of lucidity for the reality of life, we think that we're going to be this way for the rest of our life. We think that one reality is the one reality I'm going to live, and this is going to be for the rest of our life. And the idea of being with someone, whether it's a partner or the loved ones, we think that they will be there for the rest of our lives. They are not. Each of us, we are in a combined path, but each of us, we have things that we need to do, which is responsible. We need to be accountable for our own evolution. And so dealing with these losses helps us to understand this, that we need to let it go. Our ego can't just force the destiny of our life. I want that person here, back here, you know. One of the losses that people really reluctant to accept is aging. We are not accepting our aging, which is a process, natural process of our body. One thing is you look after yourself, it's great. We need to look after ourselves, but we don't accept the wrinkles. We don't accept, it's not that I'm going to accept and I'm going to fall for that. No, it's just understand that's a natural process of life. Look at nature. I like a lot nature and the stations, you know, the seasons. We have summer, we have winter, we have autumn. We have summer, winter, autumn, and
the spring.
Spring, exactly, which is my favorite one. And I forgot. And you see all the course, especially if you live in a place where there is very marked season differences. We understand that. We start to understand there is a time for everything. And that's the way we can form our mindset. That's why we are saying our biological shock, our brain respond to our mindset. How we see things, how we perceive things will influence how our brain respond to that. So ultimately, I'm not going to change my brain, but I'm going to change myself. So let's move on here. Let's present here the formula of suffering. The idea that suffering, it's a pain. Suffering, we said, not necessarily we need to suffer. But why we will suffer? Because the pain is magnified by the resistance, the clinging. We cling, it's what we are saying before. We cling to that situation. We cling to the form, to the body, to the roles, to the specific life plan. We cling to the old me. I cling to the idea of what could have happened. I cling to the life that I could have had with that person or in that job or in that place I used to live. And so the brain registers this as a loss. And in them, there is this painful, which is unsolved craving. That's what one was saying, that we usually feel that pain and we want that back in our life. And when we see in the clinging here, the resistance, sometimes we cling to the specific role. Sometimes we had wife off, father off, employee at, nationality tal, language Tao, the presentation and the being, the identity we formed linked to that reality. And sometimes we want to go back to that. We don't want to let it go that. I want to have a wife off. Okay, I want to be the person that I was before. And this, for the brain, it's craving. We are creating that craving. So we could say that life loss, it's a practice. When we are living, we are having a sequence of loss that can help us to deal with those ideas. And so it's a combination of emotional work internally, and is related to the intraconscientiology, which means I need to research myself. I need to understand how I react to loss. I lost a phone. How do I react? I lost my perfume. Why I lost a job. I have to move countries. How do I react to that? And so these will define how the level of attachment we have and how we deal with the attachment, and define how we deal with the big losses. Not that we want to be less, because it's the pain and the level of clinging we have to that. Like pet, the person, I actually follow someone that lost a pet, and it's really a big loss. And some people think, oh, this is nothing, but it's not. Okay, it is important for that person emotionally react to that. That's why it's important we understand how we deal with the losses. And here, the loss that we need to deal with is the fear of death. And we usually see some philosophies saying the fear of death, it's fear of life. And the ultimate goal for us is to deal with the finitude, and Seneca talks about this, the Stoics brings the idea that we need to deal with the natural course of life, which is sequence of loss. That's natural course. In Viktor Frankl, he talks about this. When we deal with the loss and we confront that, but we have in ourselves an objective, why I move on, which is the meaning in our life, we can follow and deal with that loss and understand that I have an objective in this life. I need to follow that path, and I honor the other person because they have to go as well. Okay, so the formula here is resistance increases suffering and pain. So the more I cling, the more I will suffer with that. How it is in consciential perspective. Now, when we talk about the conscientiological perspective, in conscientiological perspective, consciousness is, as I said before, is the eternal evolving true self. It's our self, it's our Atma. And therefore, according to what we study conscientiology, this is not the erasure. That person, I erase that from my life. No, that person is changed the vehicle because their evolutionary needs. And I still have to be here because I still have this body. So I still have to honor my life. I still have to carry on living. But that person, temporarily, they will be in another reality. And so the detachment from our form allows the grieving to become an opportunity to growth and opportunity to evolve. Why? Because when we have a body and we let it go, it gives us that energy, or let the person goes, that energy needs to go and readdress that point, or we put that objective or the things we want towards what is important for us and we need to do. I bought a set of movies, a suggestion, and some of the movies shows that a lady, one movie is Chinese, a series, she lost her best friend. And that loss actually triggered many intraconsciential recyclings in herself. She actually reviewed her life. And this is very common. When we lose someone we love, when we lose someone we have connection with, or we lose a job, or we lose our health, or whatever it is, it can be, not necessarily that's going to be, because we need to work for that. It can be an opportunity to review our life, review our priorities, review what it is that we are putting value into in our life nowadays, okay, or what we are doing with our lives. And so the conscientiological perspective is that the consciousness need to move on in the process of evolution. They need to change their physical body. They no longer have formal subtle body. And the loss in here, as I was saying, it's an evolutionary mechanism because grief, it's compulsory course. So we all are going to grieve at some stage. So loss forces us to confront our existential program, which is our life program, what we came to do here. And this compulsory course, unclinging. So we focus in what is essential and the presence, that often that person, we transmute that relation, which is nowadays, it's something that we study in psychology. Let's see if I put here. That's it. I'm going to put this first because in the sequence. So it's when we transmute that relation with that person. The person is no longer physically there, but we don't lose that person. We transmute that relation in our memory. So when we cling, we demand the presence of that person in the way we want. You have to be here beside me, or we have to be the way I always want to be. So we are clinging, we are demanding that state. But then when we transmute, we continue that bond. We still have the memory. We incorporate that relationship in our memory. And we recognize the presence of the consciousness more in another dimension. Okay, so I had an experience once that in my I was very young, I think it was 16 or 17. I lost a good friend of mine, very close friend. And we were actually planning to open, we were going to sell jewelry that we used to do. And she had an accident and she passed after 1 week in intensive care. When I received the call, just before I received the call, I had that sensation. It's new from her, and she passed. And when her mother said that, I felt that sadness, and I started to crying because I lost my dear friend. But at that moment, I felt kind of someone hugging me, and I felt it was her presence. And inside of my head came that a very clear listening. It's like she was saying to me, she said, please do not cry for me. I'm good. Just live your life in a full. And I got that, and I felt that warmth and that affection in that moment. In that moment, I stopped to cry. I never cried for my friend and for any other death after that, because I understood that I felt sad. Yeah, I was sad because I won't see her anymore in that capacity, but I will connect with her in a different environment, which is back that time I didn't study conscientiology. I was interested to understand life. And for me, back that time, I thought it might have something more interesting in life rather than thinking that we are a brain and we're going to die and everything finished. And that experience helped me to retain exactly that perception. And to a certain extent, it's a part of memories that I nurtured, which helped me to study and to go through, understand the evolution of consciousness. And so in here, when we do that movement, what we do, we actually gonna go from that connection, which is physical, and expand. We have the extra-physical connection, and this can explain as well when people feel their loved ones coming back, or they feel the presence of some people, and some people actually talk with their loved ones. And there is a book, Wheel of Life, which is the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. It's a quite old book, but she actually refers to experiences where people describe this. Before they are actually in palliative care, and they see people that is coming and say, you're going to be fine. No, for the death, they are preparing for death. And here, when we actually do this transmutation, where we no longer have that person physically, and we're going to have our we change our relationship with that person. And so that's when we can free up our energy and say, okay, I need to go to that path. And it's very important, I stress here, sometimes people, when they lose people, they feel the regrets. And there is a book, Five Language of, not Five Language of Love, no, it's the regret, the 5 regrets that the people have. It was studied by an Australian nurse, where they studied the 5 regrets, most common regrets that people have. And so we all sometimes at some stage, we might have regrets of I should have done that or shall that or that. So one good thing to do when we have the regret, it's actually observe where I made a mistake, where I fall short, where do I need to change myself. And so we actually redirect the energy of regret or guilt to understand ourselves and to get to know ourselves as a diagnostic thing and change that behavior or re-educate that behavior or do different from now on. Instead of thinking I can't be happy without that person because I did that to that person. It's very common when we are dealing with people who lost someone that they don't allow themselves to be happy without that person. And sometimes in there it's related the regret or the loyalty or some guilt of something internally that the person said, I fall short with that person. And so this can be redirect and can be an instrument to get to know oneself, right? So, and we do those cleansing, we overcome this, and then we go for the final act, which is what we talk in Conscienciology a lot, which is in here. Before that, I didn't show you guys the relativity way how we deal with loss. I really like to study culture. It's my experience. Now we enter, and I had contact with many different cultures, and nowadays I attend people from different cultures as well. So, and I would like to present here a few celebrations that people do when people die or before they have the pass. And one is the day of the Dia de los Muertos in Mexico, where they celebrate. They have one day, I think it's the 1st or 2nd November. It's more or less this time, and they honor the life and the memory of the ones that gone. Actually, there is a movie called Coco, which talks about this. Then in Bali, they have the cremation, where they celebrate the freedom of the soul. They actually cremate the body in order to free the person to go. And the East Asian, we have in China, in Japan, and Korea. Both 3 cultures, they have a day dedicated to celebrate the connection with the ancestor. In Korea, it was happened, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago, where they have a holiday, and the family all have a reunion, they put their food and they celebrate the ancestor because they assume they were going to come and see if everyone is well. So in here, you see, there is an honor of the one that's gone. But in our Western, death is often a final rupture and a medical failure, which leads to isolation and grief. And when we see that has a failure, a medical failure or a rupture, I'm never going to see this person, this isolates us. A global view, it's a practice that we see that view the person gone, and I just say goodbye. I'm not clinging to that consciousness. I'm just honor their presence in my life for that period, but I let them go. Okay. Ideally, now, and this is what we see, our subjective view of death define how we're going to respond to the death or the losses we have in our lives. So, which is the shift we have. Yes, Anna?
Yes, it's very interesting that you put the Western vision of death here. And I used to share this kind of vision because I was educated in the medical field. So as a physician, I didn't know how to deal with death. And we try to distance ourselves and isolate ourselves because we cannot deal with that pain. but we don't help the others if we have that kind of posture. So I would say that life takes you in a certain way that you are going to learn things that are useful for you and for others. So I ended up changing countries and coming to a completely different culture and having to let go of my physician persona and become a nurse. And nurses have a lot more proximity with the patients, and they kind of share these moments with the patients in a more deep and profound way than the doctors. So I would say that we have a lot to learn. And it's so important to let go of the old things that, the old conceptions that we have, because just then we are able to get to learn this new vision. And choices are there all the time in life. You have to let go of something to choose something else. So growing up and letting go is fundamental in this process. Wouldn't say so?
Yeah, and I think I would go a little bit further, thinking that one of the process in our evolution, if we think that we have, thank you, Eliana, welcome. Sorry, I saw your message before, I didn't say nothing, but what I see, if we think in terms of evolution and conscientiology, apply conscientiology, which is you apply in your life and you take your conclusions, you see how you experience your life. It's actually evolutionary process demand from us to detach, to learn to detach without suffering, because, and this is defined how we see things. It starts in ourselves. It doesn't start outside. We can be in an environment where we have the opportunity to understand that, but if we don't change ourselves, if we don't welcome in those ideas, it's very difficult for us to change and make the changes in ourselves to actually adapt and to see that new angle of life. And it is like this. At Western, it's great because in order to keep people alive, the technology in medicine and science nowadays is developed and keeping people alive. And that's because of that we have opportunity to learn more about the near-death experience. And people come back and they say what's happened with them. But at the same time, it's fixed people in a position that I need to save you at any cost. And you have to be here at any cost. You can't be raptured. And if someone die, the first thing that people think it's the medical error, you failure. And the doctor feels that. For a while, when I was starting my university back in my hometown, I had the opportunity to go and working in the hospitals after I had, I got conferences about this subject. And one of the things they would say, it was that, it's how difficult it was to deal with the death, as you said. And because it's that omnipotent position that I need to save you. That's my function, that's the doctor function. It's to make you live, but then when we have this posture, we ignore that each of us, we have our history, we have our necessities, evolutionary necessities, but sometimes we don't know what it is, but we need to let it go. And you can see these in breakups. Sometimes people separate and they make sure to show to the other person how they are suffering. They suffer. My life was captured without you. All the things I dreamed to do with you. And this makes the person who is gone, it's an act of manipulation, and it's not an act of max fraternity. You go in your destiny, because it doesn't mean you have to be with me. Be happy with the destiny you choose. It's nothing to do with me anymore. And we don't do that. We want that person with us, whatever it is. You need to be here. We promise each other, you're going to love me forever. You promise that we're going to build things together. And people actually, they get upset with the other person because they're gone. And they get upset with the one that died as well. I've heard people saying, why they didn't tell me they're going to die? How they leave me alone? Yeah. And so these expressions is good how we face that and we think, oh, hang on, what is this love? No. This, what we see here, it is, guys, the final act of max fraternity, which is evolution. It leads us to that. Maybe in one life, maybe in 1,000 lives, we're going to get that, which is a true love where we liberate consciousness, where we feel we respect the needs of those consciousness, regardless if they are have a utility for me or they are close to me. The real max fraternity is the highest act of love. It's the conscious detachment. It's when we release that energetic anchor to the consciousness that's gone. So when we think about someone, when we put our thoughts that someone, not only our brain is reacting, but we are creating connection, energetic connection, holding that consciousness back in here. And as we are suffering and we are in pain, that consciousness, it is in pain as well. It's proportional. So if for them, it's even worse because they don't have the physical body. And the act, the max fraternity act, is to honor your presence in my life was the best I could have. The time I had with you, excellent. The things I learned, marvelous. I transmute now for the memory. I will be able to talk about you and laugh and remember you, but not in a way that I want you to be with me for the rest of my life. And so when we have this final act of let it go, we give to that person the opportunity and the freedom to go in that path, and we actually liberate ourselves as well to go in the things we need to change in our own lives. And you're going to see some of the movies I put there, they talk about this. Marvelous.
We have a question here, and Eliane is asking, how can we diminish the sadness, this energetic imbalance that usually happen to us during mourning? During the grief period.
The grieving, yes, yeah.
Yes.
What's happened? First of all, we need to get contact with our pain. Sometimes people think, I don't need to get sad. I don't need to, because I understand these ideas. I'm not going to get sad. You shouldn't cry. And you need to have that time where you need to deal with your emotions in a sense. I need to face that. I'm sad. And create a mechanism where I actually listen to my emotions, listen to my relationship with that person, what I'm mourning, what I'm grieving, what I'm missing, acknowledge that, but at the same time, understanding rationally that I can't have that in the way it was. And that's because if we repress, if we feel guilty, if we feel pressure that you can't feel like this, that's increase the pain, because we are not dealing with the pain. It's not that I'm all right. I don't feel anything. I understand everyone goes to everywhere. No, it's not like this. Even though my experience, even though I felt, and my friend said, don't cry. I had to elaborate not to have that person in my life. And I had to be with that sadness, not for long, but to understand that person occupied a position in my life. But no longer, they will no longer have to be there. And we need to go through that. And first, if we shortcut, it is first, confront your pain, write. Maybe one thing that can help, it's write a letter to that person, how I miss you, how life was with you, all the things I learned with you, all the things that I learn and I live with you. Remember, your brain is responding to that, okay? The sadness, intense sadness, it's potentialized by your brain as well. The more we think that that person has to be with us, the more we suffer. And so when we do that, we actually do a small ritual to let it go, to I honor, I love you, but I will go in my life. The things you always said to me, I will do. In this series, the lady always want to go to a certain place with the friend, but she never went. And she ended up going by herself. And so it's like kind of that. Okay, you always want for me to do that, I'm going to do. And so it's kind of saying goodbye and return to the life. And if you can't do that by yourself, go to a therapy, talk about it, talk what it is that it's, the talk therapy can help you to understand when the person, to understand that loss, what it is that I'm missing, and honor that, but at the same time, use the discernment to let it go. And the person, sometimes they will need time for that. That's why they're grieving. And that's why we can't say, oh, don't worry about that. You're going to see them in a past life or in the next life. Not. They need to grow the process of rationalize that and reflect and discern and let it go.
Excellent. And we have another question from Leona, where she says, how can you set boundaries in any relationship to stay detached, but not being emotionally cold?
It's actually conversation with the person. We need to know ourselves. We need to know what is important for us, and not actually being cold. It's actually an act of put boundaries or learn to say no. It's a way for us to show our limits. When you talk about here, we study the attachment and detachment process, where they depend on how we were when we were young. That's a theory in the 60s from John Baldry. He brings that idea that when we grow up, the way we relate with our carers, or the carers relate with us when we were in pain or need their presence, or we need food. And if the carers will come quicker, or they last forever to come, or they never come, these develop the way we actually relate to the world, the attachment we have to the world, which can be anxious, or can be secure, or can be avoidance. And so this is a theory in psychology that can help us to understand. When you say that put boundaries, it's actually every relationship we need to position ourselves. And it doesn't mean that I don't like the other person, but I need to position myself, and I need the other person to position as well. And setting boundaries, it's learning to say no, and learning to tell the other person, that's my limits, that's who I am. And how we do that, communication, and also a communication that it's non-violent communication. It's not to say to the other person, oh, I want to do that and you don't need to be here, or you are blah, 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 you are very emotional, and the accusation. No, we need to let the person know that this is important for me, and I'm telling you that. If the other person takes this as you are cold or you are indifferent, that's up to them. But how you put the energy, and you put, imagine if you can't set your boundaries, and when you do, the other person will think that you are insufficient or you are cold. That's up to them. We need to be sincere, authentic, and tell the person what it is that we need. So the way to put boundaries is to communicate and learn to say no. Okay? And thank you for your question. And here for us to just the synthesis, final reflection, live. This is a site that Professor Val does in the Argumento. It's a book that's not unfortunately translated into Portuguese, but in English, but live as if we were going to last 200 years. Now, Max Brex, no? We are here 200 years, but be prepared and be prepared to the Soma tomorrow. What does it mean, guys? That we need to live fully, love deeply, and growth eternally. Why? Because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. The only certainty I have is the here and now. I don't know past, it happened, I can change. Future, I'm building now, but the place where we are very safe, it is the here and now. Okay, so it's I think this phrase synthesizes everything here. And as we need to go, people need to go as well. They need to go for their lives as well. And I leave here the name of the books. It's going to be available for you guys. The projectiology is the base of what we talked about here. The main search for meaning is logotherapy. Some of the ideas we talk about the meaning of life and redirect to live meaningful life, which make people survive. It's not a matter of live longer. It's actually add life in the life. Actually add life in the life we have. And so we needed to move on. We needed to live our life in fully, not fear, but fully. You know, the opportunity come, I need to go. Not because I'm losing something, I'm going to avoid to lose something. I'm going to be where I am. It's not the ideal for us. And then the other books, Kubler-Ross, I mentioned, and the movies. I told Anna I love movies, but there is one here. Actually, all of them are really good. I don't know if you guys watch it. So this one, The Room Next Door, it's fantastic. It's a discussion between two friends. One is with cancer, and she needs something to happen. I'm not going to spoil. Past Lives, it's a Korean movie, very interesting because reflect Koreans, Buddhism, they accept past lives. But here it's not necessarily a past life. It's one life, which is reconnect to that past of that one life the person lives. It's very interesting. Then Meet Yourself is the lady that go and lost her friend. But this one here, if you have opportunities, just release, it's in Netflix. It's the last famous last word, Dr. Jane Goodall. She is the lady that she was a researcher of animals' behavior, especially chimpanzees, King Kongs, and she died. And she allowed that interview. She asked that interview to be released after she died. The interesting thing about this lady, she died at the age of 91, and she was a fool in her life. She was working actually. The last years of her life, she was traveling 300 days doing the job that she has to do, which was talking. But the interview, it's a reflection of someone looking back life and what the things that she learned and what she leave as a message. It's fantastic, excellent. The other one, Live Twice, it's Alzheimer, but in a very interesting way, they focus in that. Drawing Closer, it's a Japanese series where the two kids, they met in a palliative care, both gonna die, and how they go into that. The In Between and Way Back Love, both relationship, they were boyfriends and girlfriends, but one of them died. I'm not gonna tell you because then you can be curious and see what's happened. And then we have Moving to Heaven, it's a Korean one. The In Between, it's American, and Way Back Love, it's Korean. And then we have a Korean Move to Heaven, which is, it's based on a true story. It's very common in Korea, in other countries as well. People die and nobody knows that they died, and they be in a place for 1 month or 1 week, 2 weeks, anyway. And this guy, he responsible for that work. He's an artist, actually, and his dad died, passed, and he assumed his work. And he carry on doing his work. It's very interesting because dealing with the death, but also the closure through the objects, fantastic. And then Coco. So that's it. I thank you very much for being here and to listen. We talk about this subject. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about those reflections about dying and death, and which is part of our life. And I think the more we de-dramatize this, the more we take the emotional energy, in a sense, to understand this part of our life. It's not that I'm not going to be sad, but that sadness, it's not clingy. That sadness is not a protest to not accept the way life is, but it is a natural process of farewell. Anna, I can't hear you.
Sorry, I forgot to put on my microphone. So I'd like you to share your email, so anybody that wants to contact you and ask more questions, or maybe get the list of your movies. Can we do that?
Yes, we can. I didn't put here, I'm sorry, but my email is aplage@gmail.com. You can contact me if you want more, because I have more books. That's it, aplage@gmail.com. And I have more books about this. I have more. I was telling Anna, I made a list, but it didn't fit here. And because I love movies. I actually work with movies. Why? Because movies mirror us. And sometimes we watch a movie and that situation helps us to research ourselves. It's somehow we go out from ourselves and see what's happening there with that person. When it comes back to us, we understand more about us. So anything you want, information or more information about what you said, or any other subject that I might not have approached, feel free to contact me.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Anna.
And next live is going to be about near-death experience. We are going to have Dr. Leona from Lebanon talking to us about this. And we are going to have more of instructor Ana Paula next year. She's going to come back and talk about other items of her experience. And we love having her here. So wait, there is more. Okay? Last remarks, Ana?
Yeah, so that's a promise. Is next year I'll be back. There are some subjects we talked before, some things that some subjects we can apply in our life, very practical as well. So next year we're going to be with some of those themes as well.
Okay, very good. We have some other comments here. Let's see. Ana Seno is saying good afternoon. And
thank you, Ana.
Thanks for the presentation. Leona is also thanking us for divulging her work. And yeah, she's looking forward to our next live. Okay, thank you all, and see you in 15 days.
Thank you,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.